What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast, the podcast where I do it from a construction closet somewhere, and Brandon is in Wonder Woman's lair, as you can see. We want to thank you for listening, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public. Thanks so much for tuning in. Shout out to everybody that's even clicked play one time. We appreciate all you do, all of that love that you're giving us. We really do appreciate it. We're obviously doing this on a Tuesday. Should I tell the story that I just told you, Brandon, of why we couldn't do it yesterday? Well, see, where I live, there's a bunch of tigers and cougars roaming around, and I was trying to defend my dog's honor and save his life. No, that's not how it happened. I was helping prepare dinner the other night, and went to go get some steak out of the marinade packet that we use. And when I went to put the fork in the steak to kind of get it out there, some juice flung back in my eye. Had to rinse that out. Noticed that the next 3 or 4 days after that, my eye was a little bit more pink than usual. So I was like, oh God, hopefully I don't have pink eye or something like that. So I went to the doctor's yesterday. Luckily, no infection. However, I did cut my eye somehow. So either raw beef juice can cut your eye, or I have the rubbing eye talent of like a miniature lion and can just shred my cornea. Regardless, we're here. We thank you for tuning in and stopping by. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We wanted to last week, because we didn't get to it because of Brandon's crazy take of wanting to trade every Hall of Fame quarterback known to man. We wanted to talk about some NBA stuff. We didn't get to it last week. We'll get to it today because First Take, ESPN's First Take, put out their list of 15 primetime players, so we'll get to that. Von Miller says the only way you stop Kansas City's offense and Patrick Mahomes in particular is not by playing defense. So that's an odd strategy. We'll see how that works out for the Broncos this year. But I think he might be making some sense. So we'll get to all that. But let's get to NBA first. And I know you want to go through the comments, too, from that video that kind of got us some traction. Really, really fired up some people, if I must say so myself. But First Take, as I mentioned, ranked their top 15 NBA players right now. Have you seen that list yet?
No, I'm trying to find it.
Okay, so it's on Twitter if you go to their Twitter. They released 15 through 11. They released their first top 10 player yesterday. So I'll go through the list of 15 through 11. At 15, you have Jimmy Butler. 14, Kyrie Irving. 13, Paul George. 12, Russell Westbrook. And 11, Joel Embiid. Cracking top 10 was Denver Nuggets' own star, Nicola Yogesh, which I thought was very interesting. Now, the guys went through it. The question that was posed to the First Take crew was, is Nicola Yogesh a superstar yet? Max Kellerman said that even though he is a star, he doesn't feel that he's in that superstar range just yet. If you go back and listen to the clip, I didn't think there was anything in there that he said wrong, and this is coming from a Jokic fanboy, speaking of myself. But when you look at 15 through 11, before we even approach Jokic, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think they got it right? Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Joel Embiid.
Gosh, I guess it's hard to look at. It's hard to think about all of the other players right now without seeing the full. I wish they would have done like the top 20 or 25, just so that I could see kind of who's just outside of that.
Right.
I mean, it's okay. So it goes. So at 15, it's
Jimmy Butler,
and
then Kyrie Irving, Paul George, Westbrook at 12, and Embiid at 11.
So does that mean Damian Lillard is in the top 10?
Or it could mean he's not in the top 15 at all.
Because I would have him above most of those guys. So.
Really?
Yeah, I would have him ahead of Jimmy Butler. I would have him ahead of. Paul George is a tough one for me because.
Yeah, I don't think I'd take him over Paul George. But the other four.
What about Clay? Would you put Clay ahead of any of them?
Ooh, it's gonna sound weird, maybe to the casual NBA fan, but I think I would take Klay Thompson over Russell Westbrook personally.
See,
And I
yeah,
might
I'm
take him
surprised
over Kyrie
Westbrook
Irving as
is.
well.
Yeah, I'm surprised Westbrook is that high.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but I think I would take Klay Thompson over Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. I know that sounds really crazy, but you look at both of those guys, specifically Kyrie Irving, it's a guy who has just, it seems like every team he goes to, there's issues that surround that team. And then he also has his injury issues on top of that.
Uh-huh.
Now, obviously, he's a great scorer, and that's not even going to be questioned. But I think I would take Klay just because he's not a headache in the locker room. Obviously, he's not skilled like Kyrie is offensively. Probably can't score in multiple ways like Kyrie can. But Klay Thompson is no slouch on the offensive end either. And he can D you up on the other end. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league.
Yeah.
And
So
Westbrook, on the other hand, I think he's just as great as he is. I just think he's limited.
right.
If you can force him to shoot 3-pointers and do your best to keep him out of the lane, you've kind of nullified his best asset.
Right. Some notable ones that I guess you didn't mention that's probably not in top 10 that would be right in that range. Donovan Mitchell,
Okay.
Trae Young, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns. The last one I would say maybe makes is Bradley Beal.
And I think those are all
Or
guys
Jason
that
Tatum.
are 16 to 25.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're ready to break that that 15 top 15 mark. I think that's, like I said, the 16 to 25 range. If I had to just off the top of my head, and we probably should have just made a list before we even did this, but if I had to off the top of my head right now think of, my top 10 players, I'd go LeBron James, I'd go Kevin Durant, obviously assuming everybody's healthy. I know Kevin's injured, but LeBron James, Kevin Durant. I think at 3, I'm taking. It's either Giannis or it's Kawhi. 3 or 4. You can interchange those guys if you want. At 5, I think 5 and 6. You can make an argument for Steph and James Harden at those spots. I think. Who am I missing
Anthony
here?
Davis, Luka.
Anthony Davis, you can throw in. And then once you get to that 7, 8, 9, 10, I mean, I think these are all guys that you can kind of move around or interchangeable. So you got your Anthony Davises. Who else am I missing here
Luka.
that I can't think of? I don't know if I put Luka in the top 10 yet.
Really?
I think he could be a top. You know what? I think he could be a top 15 player though right now. I think I would take Luka over Jimmy Butler. I mean, I would take Luka over Kyrie and Russell Westbrook.
He's nearly averaging
a
triple-double though.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I wouldn't crap on it if someone put him in their top 10. I need a full list of like NBA players here. Who am I missing?
I'll send you the one I'm looking at.
Because I have LeBron James, Kevin Durant. I'll go Kawhi, then I'll go Giannis, then I'll go Steph when he's healthy, then I'll go James Harden, then Anthony Davis.
All right, I sent it to you through Twitter.
Okay, so that's 7. I don't know. I don't know who I'm missing at this point. I mean, I'm not putting Ben Simmons in there. God, no. Forget that. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
but are you with me at least at to 7? I mean, that's pretty much the core group right there. Wouldn't you say?
I would go. Yeah, as far as I think my order would be slightly different. So I would have LeBron, then I would have Giannis.
Over Kevin, over a healthy Kevin Durant?
Yeah, as of right now, yeah.
You're nuts.
And just the only reason, I guess I'm counting age, too.
I mean, Kevin's only 31, 32.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
those
two are 2 and 3. Those two are 2 and 3.
Okay.
For me, I mean, Giannis is gonna win MVP. So it's like, and he was in the top 5 last year as well. I mean, just what he does, he's the only one like him in the league. I mean, I guess KD is as well, but it's just, I mean, if he could just get a solid mid-range jumper, a 3-point shot, like he would be the best player in the league, hands down.
It's almost kind of what you're seeing with Giannis it was kind of the evolution with LeBron early on in his career, right? A guy who could get to the rim at will and was so dominant athletically, but come that first finals appearance, all San Antonio did was say, shoot the ball.
Right.
And he couldn't do it. And that's kind of what we saw a couple years ago when Giannis was bounced out. Yeah, I mean, looking at this list too, you know what? I think I would put Luka in the top 10 because for some reason I just feel like I'm missing more NBA players that I'm not thinking about. But if I had to choose, I think I'd go LeBron, KD. I'll go Kawhi right now over Giannis. I'll put Giannis at 4. I think I would put Steph when he's healthy at 5. 6, James Harden. 7, I'd probably go Luka or Anthony Davis.
That's the hard one. So we have the same top 8.
I think I'd go Luka. I think I'd go Luka at 7.
Just different order.
Yeah, I think I'd go Luka at 7, Anthony Davis at 8. I'd probably put, you know what? I think Damian Lillard does deserve to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think I'd put him at either 9 or 10. And 10, I think you could make an argument for a multitude of guys. You know, the Paul Georges, Jokic. I think, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I put Jimmy Butler there.
At 10, I'd probably put Jokic. And
yeah, I'd say it's between George and Jokic there.
Yeah, the only reason why I would put Jokic is just because he can do more than everyone else on this list. Like, it's him and Paul George right there. But I mean,
I think I'd probably give the slight edge to Paul George right now, slightly, just because
if we're
Jokic,
taking injuries out of it.
Yeah, if these guys are fully healthy, who do you want? You're getting prime, fully healthy.
I'll always pick the wing guy over a center.
Exactly. Well, and I think now Paul George doesn't strike me as like a killer, you know, the killer instinct player. But with Jokic, there's too many times where we question his drive. And the talent is there, but it's just like you know what he can do. You saw it in the playoffs. I mean, this guy was throwing up triple doubles, putting up 40 burgers on people, you know, in triple overtimes. So the talent is there. I don't think Jokic is any lower than 11.
No.
But I would probably take Paul George, a healthy Paul George, over Nicola right now, but not by much.
Yeah, and I guess I would have to take Paul George. I would go LeBron. I'm going to take Giannis at 2. I just think he's just different with what he can do. Yeah. KD at 3, Kawhi at 4, if injuries are taken off. If we're counting as of how they are right now, KD would drop. Because I don't know how he's going to come back with that injury. I don't know.
We're assuming these guys are fully healthy.
Right.
Fully healthy, prime guys. So it's Kevin Durant at his peak.
Then, yeah, I have him at 3, Kawhi at 4. I'm going to go Steph at 5.
Okay.
Harden at 6.
Okay.
I'm going to go... You know what? No. I would rather have Luka than Harden.
Oh, here's that Harden slander.
No.
Brandon has a history of this.
I'm just saying I think Luka does a little bit more as far as defensively. His ability. Harden is a great passer. He is, but he has the ball constantly, and I think it's a bit the way they play and the way that offense works allows him to get a little bit more assists than, you know, if you put like LeBron in that offense. I think he probably averages like 14 assists, like 12 to 14 assists. So I think that offense kind of helps him. So I would rather have Luka than Harden. So I'm going to have Luka at 6, Harden at 7. I'm going to go AD at 8. I'm going to go Lillard at 9, George at 10, Jokic at 11. At 12, this one's hard. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Kyrie at 12. Well, no, I'm going to go Embiid at 12. Kind of forget about Embiid. Yeah, Embiid at 12, Kyrie at 13, Jimmy Butler at 14, and then to round it out, I'm gonna go with who am I missing? 15 is kind of hard. I wouldn't even have Russ in my top 15 right now.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Donovan Mitchell.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I mean, there's Devin Booker who's averaging 26, 6 and 4 every night. There's Trae Young who's averaging 30 in his second year and along with 9 assists.
Steph Curry light.
There's Karl Anthony Towns. Even the way Jason Tatum was playing, Bradley Beal, kind of forget about Bradley Beal averaging 30 points per game and he's only 26.
And he's tucked away in Washington, so you can never see him.
Right. So it's like the amount of talent between, I would say 10, or even from I think there's a gap between like whoever I had at 8, which is Anthony Davis, and then after that it's like, okay, there's from 9 to 20. I mean, you could have any of them really, from within that area, at least most of them. Because I mean, if you look at it, Trae Young is averaging 30 points per game, 9 assists. So, and he's only 21. There's some people that would take Trae Young over Damian Lillard, who's 29, and we've seen who he is. He's never averaged 30 and 9 in a season, right? Russell Westbrook, I mean, he's 31, but he can't really, his 3-ball is inconsistent. His jumper really in general is inconsistent. So some people would rather take Trae over him. Same with Donovan Mitchell. Same with, Devin Booker. I mean, Devin Booker put up 70 in a game. So
yeah, I mean, and I think if you're looking too, I mean, if you're looking for the future, then yeah, obviously this list changes a little bit. But I mean, if it's top 15 guys, best players right now, guys you take to start your franchise type of mentality right now, or if you had one season to play and it's for a championship, who you're taking. I don't know if I'm taking Trae Young over, a Damian Lillard or anything like that. But for the future, then sure, that's a different story. But once you get past 10 and you get 11 through 15, I mean, then it's really just now at that point it's just preference. Who do you want at that point? But I think top 10, like I think our list, we have the same guys just kind of mixed around in different orders. Mm-hmm. But with First Takes list, they had Jokic at 10. Getting back to that, he was their first player to crack the top 10. What are your thoughts on Jokic being 10 on their list? Do you think he's deserving of that right now? We both said that we'd probably take, Paul George over him there. But overall, what are your thoughts on the ranking?
Yeah, I mean, he's right there. And I think if we were talking about this a year ago today, when they're in the playoffs and the way he was playing in the playoffs, he would be in the top 10. So I think it's just the way we watched him this year or this past season before everything got stopped. I think for us, our ranking on him lowered a bit because of that. And it might have for them too, but not enough to where like they're seeing it every day. Like we were watching him every single game and seeing the issues every night. Whereas for them, they're just kind of looking at the numbers, and I mean, he's still averaging 20, 10, and 7 or whatever he's averaging. And, they're winning games. They're 2-3 seed in the West. So it's like you kind of have to put him in the top 10 if you're looking at it from that perspective. But when you're watching him every day, I think for us, it's more frustration when we're seeing things like, well, he didn't do this night, against the New York Knicks. He didn't put up, he only put up, 14 points. They won, but it's like we're watching every single game, and, those games don't really get any attention from national media, so they don't see that. They don't see a as much of an inconsistent Nikola Jokic. We see that all the time throughout the game. In the first quarter, we could be like, is he playing? Is he out there? And all of a sudden, the end of the game, you're looking at the box score and he puts up 25, 14, and 8, and you're like, I don't even remember seeing him shoot the ball. Yeah. So I think it's just from our perspective, for us, because we watch him every day, he's not in the top 10 for us. At least not yet. He's not doing it every night and every single minute of those games. Whereas guys like Paul George, Kyrie, even Russ, they're doing it every single minute of the game. And that's the difference. I mean, that's what separates these top 8 players between I guess even top 9, top 10 players that at least on our list, that separates them from the rest of the group, is that they're doing it every single night, every single minute of the game. If Kyrie is healthy, he's going 100% every single minute of that game. Same with Damian Lillard. Same with Russell Westbrook. Even though he's not efficient, that's why he's in the top 10, because he's doing it every single night and he's consistent. Luka, for him being in his third year, he's doing it every single night, every single minute, every single night. Second year. So same with James Harden. You don't see these guys put up 15 and 4 game like Nikola Jokic does every once in a while. These guys are putting up 20 plus points. They might not be efficient that night, but they're still putting up those points. They're still getting those assists, getting those rebounds. They're doing it every night. And when you watch those games every single night, they're playing hard every single minute of those. And sometimes defensively, some of these guys will take a play off, but offensively, they're going and they're extremely hard to stop every single play. Whereas Jokic, he disappears a lot. And I think that's the problem that we have with him, and national media just doesn't see that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think there's a lot of factors that go into this. One, I'll agree with you for sure. I think when you're around your team and you watch this team consistently, you nitpick more often than what the national media does, because you just watch the team more simply because of that reason. So it's easy to be hypercritical of your team, of this player or your favorite player, whatever the case is, more so than the national media. But I think you also see what this player can do. And I think part of the frustration is with Nicola is that you've seen what he can do. He can flat out dominate this league.
Just watch the playoffs last year.
Exactly. Whether it's in the post, in the pass, passing the ball, he's a playmaker at the center position, which is crazy. He does so much, and I thought Max Kellerman really put it great and hit it on the head when he said yesterday, when they asked him the question, how far away is Jokic from being a superstar? He said that Jokic is, in terms of when it comes to being into that next echelon of guys, is that he's close, but he doesn't have that drive every night to want to do it. And I think part of that is because he's coming from a European style of play, which, to be honest, is more fundamental. It's not necessarily one-on-one basketball. It's more team basketball oriented. So you have to constitute that into this, equation of why Nicola isn't
at this point, though,
killer.
I don't like that excuse, because right over in Dallas, there's another guy who has played in the is from overseas and was playing professionally in European basketball for how many years?
Right.
And he comes right over and he's different.
But here's the difference with that. And here's what I was going to get to. Jokic is with that European mentality. Now, I don't think Luka as a killer. I think he can score. But I don't see him as a killer, like a Kobe, a Michael, or a Russell Westbrook. He doesn't have that attitude, that switch. He can score, though. He can get buckets. With Nicola, he's not a guard either. He's a center. Right. So I think part of that is the mentality of he's a team first player, but also he's playing a dependent position where he doesn't have the ball. Whereas if he was a forward or a guard, then we might see it a little bit differently. So I think it's all of these things wrapped up into one. But then all that to say, and Max Kellerman said this as well, the reason the Nuggets are a powerhouse, quote unquote, or a top team is because of Nikola Jokic. So
Right.
even though he's inconsistent, even though there's nights where you want to pull your hair out and you're like, how is he only shooting 2 shots and we're in the third quarter? Or how does he have 0 points and we're midway through the second right now? He just seems like he's not there. The reason that they're relevant is because of that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that adds to another layer of frustration because if he could just have that switch like Giannis turned on and it hit for Giannis, where it was like, I can dominate. If he just turned that on and realized when it should be his time to dominate and set the tone, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to get everybody else involved right now, I think that's what will take him to the next level, which he just hasn't reached yet. But at the same time, he's averaging 20, 10, and 6. So it's like there's so much left to be desired, and he's right there.
Well, and that's the hard thing is I'm not sure he'll ever hit that. I don't think I really if for me, I do not like when a team tries to build around a center because they're limited. Yeah. And Nikola Jokic is a bit different because of the way he can handle the ball. He is a point center. So he is a bit different, but at the same time, to me, if the Nuggets were to ever, or if Nikola Jokic were to ever win a championship, he's not the reason. He's a big part of it, but he's not going to win Finals MVP, at least in my mind. Someone else has to do it. Someone else has to be the number one guy on the team, and it has to be a wing. And for me, I will never build a team. I would never build a team around a point guard or a center. In today's NBA, look at the past however many championships, right? Other than Steph, because Steph is the outlier because of his ability to shoot the ball. But even then, they lost to LeBron. They had to go out and get Kevin Durant. So, and he didn't even play well in the finals. And any of the ones that they won, he didn't play well. So for me, I don't like building a team around a point guard or a center because they are limited. Centers cannot handle the ball, pass the ball, or just score out on the wing with just their inability to just do the things that guys like LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, anyone who's out on the wing, they can just do different things. They're more versatile, and the centers just can't do that. Nikola, again, Jokic is the closest that we've seen that can do those things because of his ability, his IQ, his ability to pass the ball and even handle the ball. But at the same time, he'll never be able to get to that level, right? He'll never be able to get to a Kevin Durant level who's just as tall as Nikola Jokic, but there's a difference. He's a natural wing guy. Even though they're the same height, almost, basically the same height, KD, Giannis, LeBron, they're all just natural wing guys. And that's the difference. And so, again, just for me, and with point guards, they're usually just too small. They don't have the strength to go down in the post, or I would say you need a guy who can play out the wing who's, I guess Dwyane Wade was only 6'4", but he was naturally out on the wing. So he was able to do those things. Whereas like Steph, can you see Steph doing things like even like Dwyane Wade does or did, as far as being out in the wing and not having the ball in his hands and being able to score without the ball? Having the ball all the time? Yeah, Steph.
Yeah, no, Steph does that. Steph is one of the best off-ball players I think I've ever seen.
Right.
I think he's more lethal off-ball.
But that's why he's an outlier.
Yeah.
But like other point guards, and for me, and just even looking at the history of the NBA, you don't see that with point guards or centers.
Right.
Again, when's the last time a team built around a point guard and won a championship? Take out Steph. Because he's the outlier.
We're talking about when was the point guard the best player on the team of a championship team?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that early Detroit Piston team. Was Chauncey the best player on that team? With Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah, I guess.
Ben Wallace.
But they were an extremely balanced team.
Right. And they didn't really, at the time, they didn't have any stars. That was a team that had just a bunch of really
Right.
good players, and it was just a really good team. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find. I mean, you can go back to those Spurs teams, but Tony Parker wasn't the best player on the team. It was Tim
No.
Duncan, So it's tough. And I agree with you. I think it's hard to build around point guards and centers. And even though the NBA is becoming more positionless, I think you still need. Right now, we're seeing the theme where a lot of the best players in the league are the wing guys, and specifically the guys who are two-way wing guys.
Right.
LeBron's, Kawhi's, Giannis, Paul George, those type of players. It's been Kevin Durant you could throw in there. It's been a mold that's been created over the past, in the early 2010s on. And as far as, building around them, I wouldn't do it for sure. But it's an interesting conversation.
What about Ben Simmons?
And with Jokic.
Would you want to build around Ben Simmons?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. I am not a Ben Simmons fan. Good God.
Just the shooting?
My point guard, if you cannot, at the very least, have the threat of shooting from 12 to 18, what is the point? And I'm not trying to discount Ben Simmons like he's not an all-star level player, because he can get to the basket. Obviously, he's a gifted passer. He's great defensively as a 6'8", 6'9" point guard. But I just think he's a liability, and that's why I just don't think that 76ers team will ever reach their potential, is because they have two guys who are relegated to most of their points come within the paint, and all you have to do is clog up the lane. That's why they have to spread them, or build that team with so many shooters and help them out. But at the same time, it's like Ben Simmons is such a liability when it comes to the playoffs, not only because he can't shoot free throws, but the guy has no threat of any sort of mid-range jumper. It's crazy. I like Ben Simmons. I think he's talented, but I think he's way, way overrated.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's funny that what we just got done talking about as far as building around, a specific guy and a certain type of player, and the 76ers are doing the exact opposite. They're trying to build around a center who isn't a great passer, who can't really handle the ball at all, not like Jokic, and a point guard, a 6'9" point guard who can't shoot. Yeah. And he has to have the ball in his hand, and he has to just get to the rim. And that's all he can really do offensively. So they're trying to build around two guys that don't fit the mold, essentially.
No, and they both get in each other's way, and you can see it. And I think that's why a lot of people say they have to somewhat break that thing up. You have to choose one and go from there. If it's Ben Simmons, okay, get a bunch of shooters around him that you can go 5 out, and he can go to the basket and try and, dish to these guys. Okay, if it's Embiid, it's funny because you can kind of build the team around them the same way, but you just kind of have to get rid of one of them almost for it to work. Yeah. But going back to what you said about Jokic and building around Jokic and not wanting to do it around him, I think we agree and we're in alignment. And I'm sure Nuggets fans will probably hate to hear this, even though we're Nuggets fans ourselves, but we're just realistic with the situation. If the Nuggets want to reach their potential, obviously they need a lot of things to happen, like LeBron to please retire, Kevin Durant to please get worse.
Hey, at least he's out in the East.
Year off. Yeah, just a lot of things need to happen for this to really go down. It's not like a 2K simulation where you should rattle off 3 in a row. Thank you, though, for that. But at the same time, if the Nuggets want to win a championship, I don't think it has to be because Jokic, or it won't be because Jokic is the best player. I think we're in agreement on this. It has to be Jamal Murray, has to take that next step, which I have my own questions about. Mm-hmm. I don't think he can do it because he's just too inconsistent. But the one that everybody really has to focus on is Michael Porter Jr. Yeah. And if the Nuggets want to take that next step, even if MPJ is a poor man's version of Kevin Durant, he is the guy that will take them from a first, second round playoff team to a Western Conference team, championship contending team. Mm-hmm. Now, at that point, to get them really over the hump to win it, then you need the Jamal Murrays, Gary Harris's, that third, fourth option to come in. But I think Jokic can get them there to the playoffs, but MPJ is the one that'll take it to the Western Conference championship realm if he can reach what we all hope and pray he can reach, or if Jamal Murray can do it. But I have my questions and reservations about Jamal.
If they could somehow pull off a deal where they could get Bradley Beal, that puts some.
What would that take, though?
I don't know. It would take a
That would
lot.
take it would take Jamal, probably Gary.
I think if you can get away with not having to trade Jamal, MPJ, or Jokic and still get Bradley Beal, you do that in a second.
Yeah,
So
I don't think you can do that though, because he just signed that extension, so he's not going to be a free agent anytime soon.
right, I mean, it just depends on what Washington wants to do. If they want to completely restart, I think they would take a, um, I mean, you would have to get rid of like guys like Gary Harris, Monte Morris. Look, Monte Morris can be a starter in the league, and maybe Washington sees that, and that's probably a guy that they would want. So you give them Gary Harris, Monte Morris, um, maybe Jeremy Grant.
I don't even think
Um,
that gets you close. If I'm Washington, I'm
the
not
rights
even
to
taking
Bol
the phone
Bol.
call. Yeah, but if I'm Washington, I'm not even taking the phone call unless it's Jamal or MPJ that's in the deal. If it's not one of those two to at least start the conversation, then I'm hanging up the phone. That's just me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. Now, stranger things could happen, and hell, they could have a bunch of minions running their front office, and they're like, sure, give us Gary who can't score, and give us Jeremy Grant who's a nice athletic player, but other than that, he's limited. Monte Morris, who's he can be a starting level point guard, but really he's probably in ideal situation the backup coming on a contending team, and you're not going to get a top pick if you're the Nuggets because you're good. So
What about a
if you're
guy like
Washington,
DeMar DeRozan? With San Antonio possibly looking to completely restart and rebuild, would you get rid? Would you work out a deal with San Antonio to get DeMar DeRozan?
I don't think DeMar DeRozan at this point in his career takes you over the top, though. I don't think if you add him now, do I think it makes you more dangerous in certain ways? Offensively, yes, but we have to remember too, DeRozan he's not a step out guy. He predominantly works in the mid range. He's a great mid range guy. Now, that's not to say that he can't shoot a three and make it, but his bread and butter is in the mid range, and we saw that in the playoffs when we saw him up close and personal when San Antonio was here taking on the Nuggets. So, I mean, sure, but I think that's another deal that would kind of it would make you better, but would it make you a championship contender? Is that going to put you over the top versus LA? Both LA teams? Is it going to put you over the top over a healthy Golden State team? I don't think so.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is where they are. You either have to. I think they're kind of in a tough spot, and I think they lost their opportunities to really make a move that can, whether it's a trade or in free agency, that could completely change their outlook as far as where they should be at. But as of right now, I think they're stuck, and you have to hope that your guys develop into stars. And
really
unfortunately, with how young they are, it's going to take a lot of time. And that's why for me, when I look at this team, I don't think their window is going to be open for another 2 years at least. I'm thinking that 2022-2023 season is probably their window. Because at that point, you're saying that Nicola Yogesh is right in the middle of his prime, 26, 27. Jamal is pretty much hitting it, right? He would be about 24. Same with MPJ. MPJ would be 23, 24. And I don't think they would have Gary at that point. We don't know what Bol is going to really turn into. So, I mean, could there be a situation where you're starting Nicola Yogesh at the 4 and putting Bol at the 5? That could be.
You said 2022 is the season, right? 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, in that year, Jokic will be going into the final year of his deal.
Yep.
Gary his deal would have expired the year before.
They'd probably let him walk.
Will Barton's would have expired the year before. Jamal will be here for at least through 24, 25. So you'll have the core of Jokic and Jamal.
It just depends on how they build around them.
Yeah, and MPJ's deal is going to be up the year before in 21, 22.
Yeah, but he's on a rookie contract. They'll be able to re-sign him easily.
Right. So, Yeah, that could be the window, but they need an alpha. Unless, Jokic turns into that, or unless MPJ turns into that, or
Right.
Jamal, they either have to go the route of OKC of drafting this great talent and hoping they develop. Now, obviously, getting 3 MVPs out of it, that's a huge outlier, and 3 Hall of Famers, like that,
Yeah, and letting
hell of a
every single
job.
one of them go.
Yeah, and you don't even get a champion. That's the crazy part is they did everything right. They got 3 MVP level players and 3 future Hall of Famers, and they didn't win a championship. Part of that is because they chose to pay Serge Ibaka over James Harden, which
Yeah.
to be fair to OKC, okay, at that point, Serge Ibaka was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and award winner.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden was a second man who looked really promising, was averaging like 13 to 15, looked really good, but no one thought James Harden was going to turn into what he turned into now.
No.
So, I mean, you kind of have to give him credit there, but they did everything right and they still didn't win a championship. That means the Nuggets, best case scenario, all plums and roses. Jokic turns into an alpha. Jamal Murray becomes that guy. Michael Porter becomes that guy. And you still don't get it, or one of them doesn't want to be here anymore, or you have to trade one of them. And
or you run into a LeBron, a Kawhi, a Giannis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I mean, you look at just watching The Last Dance and looking at, luckily for Houston back then, they got lucky and were able to avoid playing the Bulls, and they got 2 championships out of it.
Mm-hmm. Jordan eliminated 20 Hall of Famers, and the one player he eliminated the most was Patrick Ewing. It was 4 times in the playoffs. And that's what the Nuggets could be in too. Like, they could find themselves in a situation where it's like they're just at the mercy of all of these great teams, and you never get it as well that way.
Yeah, and unfortunately for them, they don't have that guy that changes the league. They don't have a MJ. They don't have a LeBron, a Kobe. They don't have a Giannis. Honestly, I think you would need a top 3. I mean, look at the last, 10 years. I mean, I really think the only team to really, I mean, I guess San Antonio is different just because they had Kawhi. I mean, again, you had Tim Duncan when he was a top 3 player in the league. And then you had Kawhi and he was, he won Finals MVP, and you still had Tim Duncan towards the end of his career. So
yeah, Tim was on his last legs there.
Yeah, but I mean, you still have a guy like Kawhi who, was playing the way you need a top, I would say at least top 5 guy, but probably top 3. And I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Or Giannis anytime soon.
Right.
So it's a crazy situation, but ultimately I think we're both in agreement that, with this list, Jokic being 10, I think we're fine with that. Personally, I think for both of us, we agreed probably just outside of that right now, but there's no doubt he's an easy top 15 player in the NBA right now, and I don't think that's up for dispute. And anybody that wants to, be on the bandwagon of, Joel Embiid is better or Karl Anthony Towns is better, I think those guys may have more talent, but they're not the better player necessarily. With Joel Embiid, you have the injuries and you have also the inconsistency question with him as well. He's a better defensive player than Jokic, but Jokic is slowly turning that narrative around that he's just a slouch on defense. I think he's one of the most underrated pass tippers and stealers in the NBA. How many times do you see his hand just poke the ball free, or he tips a ball and going through the lane? It's crazy.
And that's his IQ.
Right. And Cat, he hasn't done it in the playoffs. His first year in the playoffs, his averages went way down, whereas Jokic's went way up. I believe he went from a 26 and like 10 guy, Cat did, in the regular season to like an 18 and 7 guy, whereas Jokic is going from a 20, 10 and 6 guy, and then he averages like 25 plus, 30 plus. So it's all relative to how these guys perform, not only in the regular season but the playoffs. We see it with Jokic. He's an easy top 10 guy. But kind of transitioning here, speaking of defense with Jokic, going to defense with the Broncos. Von Miller, how about this? Did you see this? He says the best way to stop the Chiefs is not by playing defense, kind of. I'm kind of shaking that up a little bit. He said you can't really stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, which is correct, and that the only way to beat this team is for your offense to score more points. I don't know if that's kind of taking a little bit of a shot at the Broncos because they haven't been able to score year in and year out, and the offense has been poor. However, I do think Vaughn has a point. Now, he did say in his quote that, yes, you can get them off the field. It is possible to get up, a 3 and out here and there. But at the end of the day, it's up to the offense to kind of keep pace. And I think Vaughn is right. With those type of players and those type of offenses, you can only contain them for so long before they eventually just break free, which is what we saw in the Super Bowl. Right. San Francisco, they stifled Kansas City, and all it took was one play to Tyreek Hill, and it blew the game open because Jimmy Garoppolo just couldn't handle the pressure. Do you have any issue with Vaughn's comments? Do you agree?
I 100% agree. Go back and watch the Houston game, that Houston playoff game. They're up, 24-0?
God, they should have lost so many times in that playoffs. I hate the Chiefs so much.
Houston was up 24-0, and what changed the game was the fake punt, right? Mm-hmm. But why did Houston do that? Because they knew they had to keep scoring. Yeah. There was no way, right? There was no way they could win if they couldn't keep scoring. Because at some point they knew that Kansas City would get going. Mm-hmm. Now, they didn't think that Kansas City would take the lead in a quarter because they were up 24-0 with 7 minutes or 10 minutes left in the second half or first half.
40 on them.
Well, yeah, but they took the lead by halftime.
Yeah.
They had a 24-0 lead in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And Kansas City had a 28-24 lead at half.
And don't forget, too, the Titans were up 10 twice on Kansas City in their game, and they still lost.
Yeah. They put up 28 points in less than 10 minutes.
Stupid. I hate the
Chiefs. That's you can have a great defense. Mm-hmm. But your great defense will not be able to hold them to less than 30 points. So that means you have to put up at least, I would say you need at least 35 points. Get me 35 points. And if you're Von Miller, if I'm Von Miller, I'm saying get me 35 points, and we can, as a defense, we can win the game.
Yeah.
But the offense has to get to 35. And if you can't do that, you can't beat that team. And it's not like Kansas City has all these ridiculous weapons, and they have, they have
ridiculous weapons.
They have what? One in Tyreek Hill. Who else?
Well, they have the fastest man probably on the planet in Tyreek Hill.
That's one.
They have Travis Kelce, who's going to be a Hall of Fame tight end.
Okay, I forgot about Travis Kelce. Okay, you got two.
So you got that. Patrick Mahomes is a weapon.
Well,
he can throw
not
from
counting
any
Patrick.
angle.
That's what I'm saying, though. Not counting Patrick Mahomes, you
only have so many skill position players.
But it's not like you're the Broncos where you're like, oh, we have all these 5-6 guys that can turn into these great players. They have two great weapons. Yeah. That's it. It's not like you're saying. It's not like this team has back with the Broncos had, DT, Decker, Wes Welker, Julius Thomas. You have four guys right there who are all Pro Bowl level guys, who are in their own right without a great quarterback, are all still talented players. You have four of them.
Is that 2013 Broncos offense better than the Chiefs offense from last year?
The weapons are. You have more weapons, but look, Peyton's great, but what Mahomes does is just different because of the way he can, just the way he is in the pocket and the way he is outside of there was that game I remember in it was that year where Mahomes was just breaking all the records. Remember that game in Denver where where they had so many chances to bring him down. He threw a left-handed pass.
I don't want to talk about it.
For a first down, and it was a 3rd and long, and he threw a left-handed pass and turned into a first down. There's things
then he threw it left.
There's things that he can do that no other quarterback, including a Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, could do. He's different. He is the next evolution of a quarterback that we're seeing in the NFL. He's the next guy, and he is changing the game right now. As we speak, as we're watching them, we are watching the NFL completely change, just live right there as we're watching him play. He's the next guy. He's what when John Elway came into league and completely changed how quarterbacks can move outside the pocket, make plays with their feet, but also have the arm strength and the arm talent to be a normal and a pocket quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is the next evolution of that. And
I
think by the time his career is done, he's going to be the best. He's going to be greater than Brady, than Montana, than Elway, than all of them.
Right. Two things here. One, I like how you're pumping up Mahomes, but a few days ago you wanted to trade him for some unknown draft pick. So I just want to throw that out there. Okay. That's first and foremost, because I agree with everything you're saying, and you're honestly depressing me, because part of me hates myself for liking to watch Patrick Mahomes, even though he plays for the Chiefs, and I hate the Chiefs.
I enjoy watching him.
He's a fun watch, for sure. But two, it's funny you mentioned John Elway. That's who Mahomes reminds me of. Yeah. Honestly, if you go back and watch,
he's an upgraded version.
Elway tape, like just the way their mechanics, how they move, how they maneuver, how they were so elusive, maybe a strong term, but they were so hard to bring down. They weren't necessarily mobile guys, but they could get out and move if they had to. Right. But the arm and just the placement and the touch, it's like you watch Elway and you're like, oh my God, that's like Mahomes. That reminds me of Patrick Mahomes right now, and vice versa. It's truly depressing. And honestly, I asked you just a little bit ago, is that 2013 Broncos offense better than that Chiefs offense from last year?
Yeah.
Is it bad that part of me would prefer that Chiefs offense just because, and I get it.
I'll take the quarterback, but I'll take Denver's what Denver had with their weapons. I'll take those. That's what I'm saying.
But that Chiefs offense is so dangerous just because of one guy, and it's not even Patrick Mahomes. It's Tyreek Hill. What he can do with just one play. If you miss him at the line of scrimmage, that's a touchdown right away. Now the Broncos did have that with DT, but Tyreek is on another level. Like, he dictates coverage. If you do not shade over him or give help, he is completely going to run past your defense. I would not, hate on somebody if they made the argument, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I despise the Chiefs, of that Chiefs offense being maybe more dangerous than that Broncos offense just because of him alone. Now, if Tyreek Hill didn't exist, say you put in, another top five, I don't know, Mike Evans or someone like that. Yes, it'd still be a great offense, but it wouldn't be the same as it is right now.
Right. And what I'm saying though is you've got two guys with Kansas City who are just great weapons, right? Who are top of the league in their own position, on their own, great players.
Yeah.
But the other guys on that offense put up big numbers, and it was because of Mahomes. Mahomes did that. It's kind of like when you look at Brady and all the weapons that he's had over the years, the best one's been Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, and Gronk, right? Mm-hmm. And he's never had three of those guys on the same team.
Well, I mean, he had Welker. I mean,
he had Welker
and Aaron Hernandez in there. I mean, if we're just looking at specifically on-field play, if we're just limiting it to that, obviously, I mean, those three at that time, a prime Welker, Gronk, and Aaron Hernandez. I mean,
okay,
that was unstoppable. I mean, how did you guard those guys?
Right, but what I'm saying though is he's turned average players, and they've put up numbers and points with those guys. And I feel like the one weakness that Peyton's always had, even though he could do the same thing, I think Peyton's really, I guess he's just had the benefit of having those great receivers. But his teams have always given him those options to where, look at some of those Colts teams, they had 3-4 weapons on that team, on that offense that he could go to, including the running back position. Whereas I think what we're looking at, what we've seen with Brady and what we're seeing with Mahomes right now is that they don't have the plethora of weapons that other teams put around their quarterbacks. Their quarterbacks make those other players 100 times better. Yeah, he has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and they do their thing, and he doesn't really have to make them better because they're already great. But those other guys like Sammy Watkins, who was a guy traveling team to team, couldn't really find the spot, finds Kansas City, and Mahomes makes him that much better. When Tyreek Hill went down in that first game, look what Sammy Watkins did. And throughout the rest of the season, he didn't really do much, but he still, looking at his whole season, he still put up solid numbers, and he was still good in the playoffs. But it was because Mahomes was able to make him better.
Right.
Who are their running backs? There's a reason why they took There's a reason why they just took him. Right. There's a reason why they just took him, but they won a Super Bowl with a running back by committee. Right. We could barely name one or two of them that they have. We could barely name one of them. I couldn't remember his name. I knew his last name was Williams. Didn't know his first name.
I think it's Damian. I think. But it doesn't matter.
But that's the point I'm making is, and look at look at those teams that Brady's had with New England. You got Julian Edelman and who else? And they're still a top 5 offense. Even when Gronk was out, they still were that top offense. And looking at Brady now with Tampa Bay, this is the best group of weapons he's ever had. And so we'll see what he does with that, but he doesn't need that. And that allows his team, that allowed New England to go out and get defensive weapons, offensive line help. And that's why they were able to sustain their dynasty, really, is because Brady didn't need to spend money on weapons. The second, Wes Welker became available and needed a lot of money, they would let him go. The only guy they really paid offensively was Gronk. But they found Wes Welker, they found Julian Edelman, they paid him cheap. And they continue to find the next guy, and that's what they do. Oh. And they spend money on defense, and so for Kansas City, you have that benefit. Patrick Mahomes is so great that he makes those guys better. When Tyreek Hill has a massive deal, they might sign him, but what if they have another guy and they're like, well, Mahomes will make him into the next Tyreek Hill? They go out and get another speed guy in a draft, and they're just like, yeah, Mahomes will just make him into the next guy. Just like Brady made Julian Edelman the next Wes Welker. I mean,
You're just depressing me. Why do we have to keep going down this road? Why do we have to keep going down Kansas City dynasty talk? This is not what this podcast is for. If anything, we poop on Kansas City here. No, I get it. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is there, they're going to be a powerhouse. They're going to be like Russell Wilson. Even though the team's not going to be great around them, they're still going to be winning 10 wins.
No, but there's a difference between Russell Wilson and
trade Russell Wilson too.
There's a difference between Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. There's a big difference.
What's the difference?
Just that thing. What Mahomes has. What Mahomes What Mahomes has is what Brady has. It's different.
You saying Russell Wilson's not different?
He's a great quarterback, and he's a top 5 quarterback. But Mahomes has the ability to be the greatest of all time, just like Brady. Okay. But there's something different. There's something different, I think, that actually separated Brady between Manning, too. There's a next level that Brady was able to hit that Manning wasn't. There's a next level that Mahomes can hit that none of these other guys, like Russell Wilson, even Aaron Rodgers, there's just that next level that he's able to hit that I've only seen from one other guy, and that's Tom Brady. And then I'm sure you're able to see that with Montana and even Elway, but there's something different about him, and that you can't just I don't know how to put into words. It's just it's like
steroids. That's what it is.
It's like
PEDs.
I'm sure it's like how people try to describe Jordan compared to everyone else around him. There's
just antler spray.
Same with LeBron. There's just something different. That there's a different level that they can hit where they can get to a championship, a Super Bowl, an NBA Finals with just crap around them.
Yeah.
and just average guys that, that was just trash from another team. And you're like, all right, we'll just take that guy. He's cheap. Brady will make him great. Mahomes will make him great. LeBron will make him great. Jordan will make him great because they're that good. That's them.
Are you ready to walk back what you said last week? Or are you still sticking with that?
From that perspective, I was saying from a GM perspective and with money.
Yeah.
The benefit that you have around Brady and possibly around Mahomes is that you can just put cheap, average guys around them and they can make them great. But with the Russell Wilson guy, I don't think you can really do that. He's still going to put up solid numbers, but is he going to get to a Super Bowl with those guys? No. Brady was able to get to a Super Bowl with Gronk, and that's it.
Well, he also had a Hall of Fame coach, and we can't forget too that whenever their offense was meh in their terms, the defense was usually really good.
Seattle has a great coach.
It offset. Yeah, but he's not. He's
a great defensive coach.
Yeah, but he's not Bill Belichick. There's a difference. 17 Super Bowls, and the other guy, won one and decided to throw it on the 1 yard line instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch. So don't even give me that, all right? And Pete Carroll's not even in the same breath as Bill Belichick. Who doesn't run it there?
I'm just saying there's a different level between Russell Wilson and guys like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Brady and Mahomes are 1A, 1B in the league, and then there's about 10 feet of nothing.
Oh.
And then there's the other guys. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Tom Brady's not better than Russell Wilson right now. That's not true. That's
maybe not right now, but 2 years when they were making it to 3 straight Super Bowls, yeah, there was a difference.
Sure. Okay. San Francisco, Seattle, Atlanta, forever on my crap list because they could not close the deal against the Patriots. Just forever, you have failed me. Nick Foles and Eli Manning, heroes. Should be statues all across America for them, pioneering them.
They went to what, 4 and 5? 4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
The Patriots?
Yeah. Is that right?
I don't know. It was a long time.
Or 5 and 6. The one outlier was Super Bowl 50.
Did I say San Fran lost to the Patriots? I mean San Fran not beating Kansas City. That's what I meant.
Yeah. But
24-10. Come on, man. Why do these teams do this to me? Why do I get so wrapped up in this? I can't handle sports. It takes years off my life, like Mason Plumlee.
Yeah, Mason Plumlee.
You know, it doesn't take years off my life. This podcast. It brings me joy. Except for when we have to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. And we hope it brings joy to your life as well. We want to thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. All of you guys that watched on YouTube, shout out to you. I commented back a little bit. We didn't get to Brandon's comments today from the last video.
Oh no, but thank you to all those people who comment. That was entertaining to
yes, trust me. I don't understand.
I was just bringing
bringing
up an idea of what GMs are thinking when you have to pay these guys half your salary cap.
Yeah, well,
I was just bringing up an idea of what to do, and then people got a little upset.
I got very upset. There was name calling, threats being made. No, I'm just kidding. There was none of that. But thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for everybody that's going to listen wherever you can find your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, Radio Public. We thank you for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter. There's a lot of casts. If you didn't catch the theme, there's a lot of casts and all these things. Follow us on Twitter at Brandon_Stoll for Brandon, at Stephen Priest Jr. for myself. Don't give me a VEN. Again, I will block you. Don't disrespect me like that, like the Kansas City Chiefs have. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday. Maybe then we can get to some of those comments. I don't know. We'll have a good show for you guys on Friday. Have a good rest of your week. Until Friday, we'll see you then. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.
Success
every week. First podcast. Yeah, we don't got to talk about success here. All right, I'm just going to edit that out of the podcast so they won't even know. Rewind. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We'll see you on Friday. Goodness gracious. Every week I've messed that up. It's ridiculous.